Okay. Let me do a real-time update, though tomorrow I plan on teaching. But my daughter is on like a vacation, and I forgot I'm not going to do the regular teaching that I would do with her. But I do plan on covering the normal teaching. And I've been debating to do an update simply because I'm getting ready now to do a little studying. And as I'm debating, I've been doing uploads and everything I'm supposed to, and then I'm talking to myself, maybe for a good 2 hours in the middle of everything. And then as I'm talking to myself, should I do an update? Should I talk about talking to myself in my talk? And at the time, I'm talking to myself. And if I don't speak a lot, teaching and I slow down, then I talk to myself much more. And I guess my friends, I'm sure they notice. Like, oh, John's he's talking to himself a lot today or whatever. And they're patient with me. And then I'm going to try to cover just a few high points real quick. And if I remember them all, I remember them all. I was hanging out with my friend Rick. Today I went to Brother Dave's feeding. And I left the house early. Took off on the motorcycle. I did my normal routine. But then I've been trying to get out early. So I wound up going to the park early, like at 10 o'clock or 9:30. And Brother Dave does not feed until about 12. And I was dressed in, I had some old jeans. I kind of looked homeless. I didn't plan on it because Henry told me, John, your shirt has got holes in it. That's an old shirt. So I was just laying at the park on one of the benches, parked my motorcycle over there. And I heard a vehicle pull up, and I was just trying to rest. I didn't realize it was a cop. There was nothing wrong. And I'm familiar with this officer, Some of the guys complain they don't like this guy. He's doing his job, okay? He's a senior cop. I don't know. I'm not familiar with his name. But I've done a few things, complained about stuff over the years. And I don't think he knew it was me. But he still was fine. He just said, because I heard a vehicle pull up, it was a cop car like in the park. And then he said, sir, are you okay? And most of the times they're maybe the guys that were drinking that might be laying down sleeping in the park, which is not right. And then I turned over and I said, oh no, I'm just waiting for Brother Dave. That's when he realized it was me. But it was fine. There was nothing wrong with that. And I hope they don't think, oh, this guy's going to make a video. I said, no, Brother Dave's going to feed today. And then at the feeding, I'll mention this. I don't think Claire would be upset. But Claire, my friend Claire, who you see on my videos, she got arrested last night or yesterday afternoon for, being in front of one of the, whatever the stores are. And sometimes my friends will be there and then they'll get arrested. So I heard about it when I was sitting at the park, George, or somebody told me. But then, sure enough, I didn't know if she was going to show up because she got arrested like yesterday afternoon and then got out in the morning on unlawful assembly or whatever because they're in front of some of the stores. But she showed up to help. And then Brother Dave, he was serving. And when my friends get arrested or whatever, I try to identify, like, man, they just spent the night in jail, and yet Claire showed up to help with her ministry, which is the feeding. And then Dave complained about something, maybe she was putting too much food on, and then she got upset and said, and then I gave Claire a hug. She normally gives people hugs, and before she kind of walked off mad, then she came back. But I also thought, you got to identify that she did show up after being in jail for the night. Some people, that would upset them a lot. And then Henry started something, my friend Henry, who you saw in the video, they got into something about the law, something else, unlawful assembly, and then that got Henry started. Henry's a very intelligent Christian man. But then he kept talking to himself through the whole thing. You know, he wasn't interrupting, and then I just saw, I said, see, and people get used to it. Oh, I said, yeah, Henry's talking to himself. Something made me laugh the other day, and then I'll try and cover a few issues. Some of my friends on the street, they're older guys, and you know, I have some of my friends have a violent history, but it's normally not some of the older guys that you've seen me, you know, on the videos. But some of my younger friends, yes, that was their part on the street, and that's, you know, that's what they did. And everybody knows, so those are the guys that are real violent. Just a few. But I told one of my friends, I can't give the name, one of the older guys, I said, I've been hanging out with so-and-so at the turnaround. Oh, and he was not mad at me. He said, yeah. When he first came to town like a year ago, he sucker punched me in the vehicle or something. And I said, what? Yeah, he hit me, and you know, my ear still hurts from that incident. And it just made me laugh. The whole day I was kind of laughing, like, because these are maybe the guys you wouldn't think. But yet I understand anybody can be violent. But it just struck me funny because, you know, that was somebody you would not expect. Let me talk a little bit about, a few weeks ago, I was parked with my motorcycle on one of the turnarounds. There was a new guy there. I gave him my card, so if he's watching this, fine. I said I do videos. His name was Mike. But he kind of walked up to me. I was parked a little bit away from the water. Sometimes I park by myself, you know, away from, maybe a few hundred yards away from where the guys are hanging out. And I'm by the water, but I'm by myself, sitting on my motorcycle, smoking. And he walked up and saw me sitting there, and so introduced himself, and he was there for a few days. He brought up some things that didn't seem right, and then some things like I didn't want to hear. But because he was new, I always wonder, oh, is this some undercover cop? And then I try not to let that, if he asked somewhat about the Lord, and I did talk to him about the Lord, but right away in my mind, if there's somebody new, I think that. John, are you mad at undercover cops? I don't associate with people on the street that are undercover cops. I have nothing to hide because everybody knows that I don't use and I don't drink. But in the community that I'm in, if people think that you're a snitch or you're an undercover cop, that's not a good thing. Meaning if other guys find that out. If I think somebody's one, and sometimes I do think that, I avoid that person. Not to hide anything. Most of you would know my feelings on it. I don't want nothing to do with somebody that's his thing, he's out. Because I've had people ask questions in the past, and I'm thinking. And so some of my friends right now, because a few arrests have been made the last few weeks, and look, I've been around even today where one guy was going to beat another guy up because he supposedly might have snitched. But I'll be honest, I've had my questions about that guy because he's kind of new. And then I know sometimes maybe, but I never know. But the other thing, and it's a problem amongst the community in the street. The other thing to remember is, ultimately, I have one friend that he just got out of jail and he had a minor possession charge, and it wasn't a lot. But I noticed I never see him drink. Doesn't. But he I sat with him, talked to him for a long time the other day, and he was kind of not wanting to pull that little bottle out. It's legal to drink, sadly. And then after I was done talking to him, I seen him again today, I realized he was telling me, though, that's not his addiction. Because he realizes if you ever have other things on you, you're liable to get arrested, and you don't want that. And the honest thing, I do not condone, my friends. Primarily, it's ice or meth is the addiction where I live in Florida, and I don't condone it. And I want them to understand that ultimately, that cycle is going to repeat. Like, you could hide it for so long or whatever. But my friends also know that I'm not there to say so-and-so does this. They're where they're at, and I understand. You know, I said the other day on my motorcycle talk that when I had crashed years ago, I was totally numb. And I said when I hit the ground, flipped over that lady's car. But it felt like when you were on a trip, a drug trip, and I had a very bad overdose on mescaline in 1979. And man, I thought I was going to die, and that trip lasted for maybe, I don't know, a week. Like, I stayed at a friend's house. His brother died last year, by the way. But I had flashbacks from that mescaline overdose for years. You would just, but even though that was an early part, you know, I was young, and I was telling the guys, we were talking about some of the military stories. And I always tell the guys, you know, I've never done meth, but I did meth. Because back in 1980, when I got stationed in Kingsville, I got pure meth, which came from the dispensary, okay? The clinic. I was a corpsman. And I had a whole bottle of, it was pure meth, okay? We didn't call it that back then. Ephedrine? Okay. I think it was ephedrine. But it was pure meth, because later, that's what that was. And I took that, should have lasted for like a long time, and I finished that bottle in a few days. But I remember, after that experience, besides many other things that happened, man, my toes were numb for years. They must have just overloaded my system back then. And when people are young, they don't think. And I'm not going to go, I've told some of that testimony in the past. But as we were talking the other day, I said, I remember that. When you see me smoke cigarettes, we understand that's an addiction. I hope I don't offend people, but look, if my friends, who also are always wanting to smoke, if they could realize, if they could stop the other things, say, you know what, John enjoys smoking, he smokes a lot, John, they all know. It would be better. It'd be better if he didn't smoke at all, I get that, all right? But it would be better if you just said, you know what, John manages to do his ministry and everything, and he doesn't have to drink anymore, which I don't. And so that would be the only advice I would give my friends. Because I've seen, you know, it's not new, because I've been around for a while, but there's always people on the street that are wondering, did so-and-so rat this guy out? Or did this one rat, and that's been coming up a lot amongst my friends on questioning one another. And attempts to, you know, they're going to beat up this one, they're going to beat up that one. And I myself question, is this guy an undercover cop? Like in various instances. And some were over the years, which, like I said, I'm not covering it. I just don't, my feeling is I don't associate. You know, if that's your job, I understand. But I don't associate if I think you are one. Like that one guy, Mike, who was there for about 4 days under the turnaround. He introduced himself to me, but then he kept bringing things up that made me get mad a little bit. Like pretending or talking about certain things he did or things. And it just made me wonder. That's all. Because his story didn't really, you know, check out. So my feeling is, I also told one of my friends this last few days, because that's a big question on the street right now. Is so-and-so an arc? Is this one right and this one? And I said to my friend, I said, you know, I think over the years a lot of people have done that probably. I've never done that. But a lot of people probably have gotten in trouble and said, I bought something from so-and-so. And my friend told me, yeah, but there's some people that's like their full-time job. I said, I understand. The safest, best bet, something else upset me, is to not use. Okay? Don't underestimate the power of that addiction, particularly to what they call ice or meth, because it has a certain effect on the body, more so on the brain than other drugs do. Your brain has a natural fuel pump that pumps out dopamine, and that's the normal. Alcoholics also suffer from that. That's when people quit drinking or using, there's like periods of depression, because that function of the body that puts out the dopamine naturally is suppressed. You ruin it through addiction. Now meth ruins it more than the average drug, and that's why when the guys get their high, or the girls, coming down is real hard, because that meth is actually not what's getting you high. It's having the effect, and it's releasing that natural God-given chemical in the body called dopamine, but it's releasing it in an unnatural way. And then when the meth wears off, those little fuel pumps that produce that natural chemical, God-given chemical, dopamine, it produces a lot less. That's why the down is so bad. That's why the addiction is an addiction. So just there was a few things I could have briefly covered. I'm sure I didn't cover them all. But really, there'll be a cycle of life where maybe you'll hide a certain drug at a certain time, and then this one and that one, and then the cops are going to maybe arrest so-and-so, and then they're going to say, where'd you buy this from? The best bet, smoke cigarettes with me. Some of my friends, alcohol is a problem. Some of them, it's meth. I don't smoke pot. I've had a lot of people ask me, regular people that are not even street people, that say, I'm sure that there are people in authority that smoke pot. Authority figures. I don't even do that, okay? And I've had people ask me, John, come on, you got the long hair on. I said, no, I don't even smoke pot. So really, if you want to get off that addiction, then there's that process. And I've taken people to Charlie's place, and many of them that might watch this video will have gone through it. And then later that addiction does return. How do you fulfill the things you're supposed to fulfill? When it's time for me to do my praying, I don't wake up and say, will I pray today? That has become a custom. I'm going to teach some of this tomorrow in the verses. When it's time for me to study, now I'm going to read my verses again in a little while. Then I study, no matter how I feel. It's a certain time at night I'm going to upload videos. I'm going to teach. You learn a discipline. Ministry is a discipline. Recovery from addiction is a discipline. It's a discipline. You learn to avoid the temptation, but then you fill it with righteousness. That's where I think a mistake was made with a lot of friends in addiction recovery, because their purpose began to be simply not using. See, that's never a sufficient identity for a person, that they don't use. There are many people that will not use a drug, alcohol, or any of those things, and never fulfill their purpose in life, never fulfill their destiny, but yet they're clean all their lives, or for a great part of it. Once you get the recovery, then you move into the destiny. That's really important. So I just do this as an update because I myself if I see new people, and sometimes I know I'm paranoid, my friends will tell you that, but I question in my own mind. I question, and I am perceptive. One day some guy I never met before, and he was just hanging out at Tim. And then he's new, and then he's starting to spark up a conversation. Talking about mafia, talking about New Jersey, talking about sort of like, does anybody from New Jersey? Now, I kept my mouth shut. Albert, oh, I'm from New Jersey. Oh, you're from New Jersey? I said, yep, and that was it. Now, not that I had anything to hide, but I could see that that guy was just like fishing. Never, I don't remember, I don't know, I wouldn't recognize him if I see him today. I don't think he's around anymore. So my own personal opinion is I don't justify criminal activity. I don't tell, the other thing that upset me was after Brother Dave fed, and we were all there, me and a bunch of friends, some that were involved in some of the stuff I was talking about. And one of my friends, there was people going through the park, families, nice. And one of my friends got up and panhandled that family. And went up, I didn't know he was going to do it, and he said, folks, do you have some change you can spare? That friend knows when he does that, if I'm sitting with him in public, anywhere, and he does that, he knows I leave. But at the park, I immediately said, I'm leaving. And everybody left. And look, nobody, all of the other friends that were there also said, can you believe so-and-so did that? Okay, so those are things that are not right. Because I'm sure that family felt very uncomfortable that just somebody approached them, and they had kids with them, and said, folks, do you have some change? I don't like that at all. So, this is just a real-time update. I'm going to do our regular teaching tomorrow. Oh, and I'm going to post, because it's already done. The post for tomorrow, you'll see. And then tomorrow in the afternoon sometime, God willing, you'll see the video that I'm going to teach, all right? Let me pray for you guys. Father, I pray a blessing on all the people that watch the videos. I pray that there would be deliverance, that people would realize that if they're caught up in all types of stuff, it's not a matter of just when they're going to get in trouble or when they're going to get arrested. It's going to happen eventually. And so I pray that you give them the wisdom to see that there's got to be that change of the course, change of that path. We ask that in Jesus' name. Amen.